Season 3, No More Nice series. This episode is entitled Kindness is Not Meant to be Scattered on Concrete. Some of us are not exhausted because we're weak. Some of us are exhausted because we keep trying to turn concrete into soil. We keep watering places that can never sustain us, giving sunlight to people who only know how to consume, pouring into environments that were never designed for cultivation. And eventually, that woman starts blaming herself for why nothing is growing. But tonight, I want to talk about the painful difference between being planted and being scattered. Because our kindness was never the problem. Our lack of discernment about where we keep sowing, that is the problem. So let's cut the noise, let's get clear, and let's lean into tonight's conversation. Hey y'all, I'm Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised in church, and my faith journey has always been at the center of who I am. And I am incredibly thankful to have been raised by a hardworking, sacrificial, high-performing single mother who remains my biggest fan and forever best friend. Honoring God through service, making my mama proud, and using the gifts he gave me has always been deeply important to me. But somewhere along the way, while building dual careers in healthcare and wellness, in sports and entertainment and media, showing up for people, working with celebrity clients, serving, helping, supporting, encouraging, and constantly being quote unquote nice, I started noticing a recurring theme in both my personal and professional life. I realized there's a difference between being kind and being endlessly accessible to everybody. And there's a difference between service and overextension. And there's a difference between kindness with discernment and niceness without boundaries. And slowly, I began recognizing how many people in my life, whether personal, professional, romantic, places and things in my life were constantly taking without ever truly pouring back into me. And that realization didn't make me stop being who I'm called to be. It made me get really honest. And honesty became the beginning of this rebuilding series and this series of No More Nice. So now in season 3 of Cut to the Chase at 8, after 334 episodes, this podcast has evolved into something revelatory and refreshing for me. And this is now C2TC8, Her Circle, which was Cut to the Chase at 8, but now C2TC8, Her Circle, which stands for High Performing, Empowered Women Who Are Ready to Thrive Circle. It is a space created for high-performing, empowered women who are ready to thrive and who are ready to stop merely surviving and finally begin rebuilding, discerning, healing, thriving, and becoming in real time. And alongside that rebuilding journey is the soulful H.E.R manifesto that is being birthed. And it's not as perfectionist or being perfect, but as a commitment to stop shrinking, stop overextending, stop abandoning discernment, and stop apologizing for advocating for yourself and having an opinion, and stop delaying the purpose, the vision, the peace, and calling God placed inside of each of us. So whether you're a mother, a single mother, a caretaker, an entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, working a 9-to-5, juggling 2 or 3 jobs, quietly rebuilding, or loudly rebuilding, or simply trying to hold yourself together while growing through something or a season and growing through life in real time, This space and this circle is for you. So if you're listening or watching, pull up a real chair or a digital chair and grab yourself a cup of hot or cold herbal tea and welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8, which is now C2 TC8, H.E.R circle, a 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro-living transformation. And I am truly overjoyed that you are here because this is where we explore life together through our lived experiences, yours and mine, while giving ourselves real grace in this space as we navigate some very interesting times. Here we talk about spirit, mind, and body health because our health truly is our wealth in microdoses for macro living. So make sure you join me twice daily for just 15 minutes at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time because this is your daily pause for a cause, for clarity, wellness, discernment, grace, healing, intentional decision making, and rebuilding. Because how we begin our day and how we end it matters. Each episode, my offer to you is 3 keys and 1 reflective question. Something practical, something grounded, and something you can carry with you long after the episode ends. So wherever you're listening from, I want you to turn it up and tune in. And if anything you hear today pricks your heart or it lights a spark, I'd love for you to subscribe, share this episode with someone you care about, and please leave a comment or send me a message so that this becomes a dialogue and not a monologue. And leave a 5-star rating review so that this space can continue to grow and reach others. Let's take a breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's lean into today's episode of Cut to the Chase at 8, now C2 TC8, H.E.R circle. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready, set, go and grow, and be great toward the life we were truly called to steward. So, again, the title for today's episode is Kindness is Not Meant to be Scattered on Concrete. You know, one of the hardest things about rebuilding and healing is realizing some things in our lives were never about failing. They were simply never planted in soil. And I think that's a painful revelation for many of us, especially some of us ladies who were raised to help, to serve, to show up, to support, to accommodate, to sacrifice, to carry, to encourage, and to keep pouring into everyone else around us. Because many of us were taught, if you just love harder, serve harder, pray harder, stay longer, water more, support more, forgive more, and remain soft enough, eventually the concrete will become soil. But concrete has purpose too. It's just not cultivation. And I think that realization changes everything. Because not every place in our life was designed to hold us, to grow us, to protect us, to nurture us, or sustain what God placed inside of you and I. Some places were only meant for passage, not planting. And honestly, that's where discernment becomes so important. Because kindness without discernment eventually becomes scattered stewardship. And scattered stewardship creates exhaustion. Because some of us spend years carrying bags and bags of emotional soil. And soil sometimes needs manure. And sometimes we carry that around too. Trying to create gardens and environments that only have the capacity to be sidewalks. That visual has been sitting with me all day, especially thinking about New York City sidewalks. If you've ever been to New York City, The sidewalks are not the cleanest. And if you were to place a seed on concrete, you could water it, you could pray over it, you could place it in sunlight, you could put fertilizer and manure around it, you could try to protect it. But eventually, we have to become honest about the environment of that seed on a New York City street. Because as much effort as we take to tending and toiling, that effort cannot force that seed on a New York City street to grow. No matter how you cultivate it, it just won't do anything. You just kick it down the street of New York City. And for some of us, that's hard for us to realize that we have been raised to believe being needed equals purpose. Because many of us were applauded for being available, being dependable, being emotionally accessible, being understanding, being accommodating, being spiritually flexible, and endlessly, quote unquote, nice. But kindness and niceness are not the same thing, because kindness still requires stewardship. Kindness still requires wisdom. Kindness still requires discernment. And discernment asks questions like, is this fertile? Will it produce good fruit? Is this reciprocal? Is this healthy? Is this sustainable? Is this aligned? Is this part of my destiny and my purpose? Is this peaceful? Is this assigned to me? Or am I exhausting myself trying to grow something that was never meant to blossom here? And honestly, I think many of us become emotionally exhausted because we confuse constant watering, like that seed on the New York City street, with purpose. But every seed does not belong in every environment. And every person does not have the capacity to steward your softness, our kindness, our emotional labor, our encouragement, our gifts, our purpose, our peace, and our rebuilding season. And that is not bitterness, that is stewardship. And honestly, this rebuilding season has been teaching me that my kindness was never the problem. My lack of discernment about where I kept sowing it was. Because some people love access to your fruit, but resent your root. Let me say that again. Some people love access to your fruit, but they resent your root. Some people love what you provide, but they were never assigned to protect what's growing inside of you. Some people consume the seed, but never cultivate growth. And eventually, women, a lot of us become emotionally depleted, trying to prove our kindness, our loyalty, our support, our value, our gift, our goodness, and our love to environments that never had the capacity to cultivate it in the first place. And that is where the PPT audit matters. PPT audit. People, places, and things. People. Who in your life constantly receives your time, your emotional labor, your encouragement, your softness, your support, your wisdom, and your nurturing, without ever creating an environment where you and I can grow too? That's TOO. Places. What environments keep requiring water but never produce fruit? What places drain you, delay you, confuse you, or constantly require overextension just to remain connected? Things. What habits keep scattering your seed? What places do you spend time that is sucking the life out of you? Because we're over explaining, people pleasing, over committing, emotionally rescuing, fear of disappointing people, chronic accessibility, trying to save environments that were never assigned to us. And honestly, that's where SAC becomes important. SAC framework, spontaneous assertive communication. Spontaneous. Can we communicate our truth in real time instead of waiting until resentment, exhaustion, or depletion builds? Because many, quote unquote, nice women delay honesty to avoid disappointing people. Assertive. Can you communicate with clarity, boundaries, honesty, and self respect without believing you are being mean? Because assertiveness is not cruelty, it is stewardship and honesty. Communication. Can you clearly communicate your capacity, your boundaries, your needs, your timing, your availability, and your discernment before overextension turns into emotional exhaustion? And honestly, that realization changed a lot for me because I started recognizing how often, as women, we are taught how to serve people without being taught how to discern who they are actually assigned to. And maybe that's why rooted, not reachable has become so important to me. Because rooted women stop scattering themselves everywhere. They stop trying to force gardens on sidewalks. They stop believing every need is their assignment. They stop confusing being consumed with being called. And we begin recognizing that sacred things require stewardship, including our time, our energy, our kindness, our softness, our emotional labor, our peace, our nervous system, our purpose, our rebuilding, and our dreams. Because maybe our seed was never failing. Maybe God is simply teaching us the difference between concrete and soil, which brings me to the three keys. Key number one, let's stop trying to force concrete to become soil. Some environments are not broken, they simply were never designed for cultivation. And discernment helps us stop exhausting ourselves trying to grow in places that lack the capacity to sustain what God placed inside of us. Not every relationship, not every friendship, career, ministry, or even environment is fertile ground. And healing sometimes begins the moment we stop blaming the seed and start becoming honest about the soil. Key number two, kindness still requires stewardship. Kindness is beautiful. Kindness is necessary. Kindness is a fruit of the Spirit. But even fruit require protection, timing, seasons, discernment, healthy soil, and stewardship. Our time, our energy, our softness, encouragement, emotional labor, and purpose are sacred resources, not unlimited public access points. And kindness without discernment eventually becomes depletion, disguised as goodness. Key number three, being needed is not the same as being assigned. Many women stay emotionally overextended because usefulness feels validating. But purpose is not measured by how many people can access you, need you, drain you, suck the life out of you, leech off of you, or consume from you. Some people are connected to your labor, your nurturing, your support, and your availability, but not your destiny. And discernment helps reveal the difference. Reflection question: what in my life keeps demanding water but has never truly produced fruit? And am I continuing to plant trees and plant flowers there because it's fertile or because I was taught that exhaustion equals love? So before you go, I just want to say thank you for continuing to grow, heal, discern, rebuild, and give yourself real grace in this space with me. And thank you for allowing this community to evolve in real time. So before we close, let's revisit our three keys and one reflection question from today's episode. Key number one, let's stop trying to force concrete to become soil. Key number two, kindness still requires stewardship. Key number three, being needed is not the same as being assigned. And our one reflection question, what in my life keeps demanding water but has never truly produced fruit? If today's episode pricked your heart or lit a spark or gave language to something you've been carrying, or reminded you that your seed was never the problem, I'd love for you to subscribe and share this episode with someone you care about. And please leave a comment or send a text message so that this becomes a dialogue and not a monologue. And if you feel led, a 5-star review so that this space can continue to grow and reach others. And if you've been quietly rebuilding alongside me, I'd love for you to consider to join the C2TC8 Her Circle community of founders as we continue discerning, praying, healing, growing, and becoming together in real time. Because this season is not about becoming hard, it's about becoming rooted. So thank you for joining me for another 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro living transformation. Let's take one final breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm Madison Samone Chase, and this is Cut to the Chase at 8 C2TC8 Her Circle. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready, set, and go and grow toward the life we were truly called to steward. Blessings to you and yours. Until tomorrow.